What's up, everyone? I have Linus from Linus Tech Tips and many other things here with me on the podcast, That Creative Life. Welcome to the show.
Hi, all.
I'm so excited to have you on. This is so exciting.
Oh, thanks.
I flew to Vancouver for one day for just this podcast, and I am so excited to be here. I have a ton of questions because your operation here is so crazy. Seeing your setup here, insane. My first question, are you like a Canadian native? Like, did you born and raised in Vancouver?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, this office is like, I don't know, 60 kilometers from where I was born, actually.
Okay, because
that's about 40 miles.
I couldn't do that math in my head.
Sorry.
What's that in miles? So I want to go all the way back to when Linus was working at the computer store.
Yeah.
And you had a decent salary, life is good.
Yeah.
What made you decide to take the jump to do your own thing?
I will mute my phone. Sorry about that.
You were good. He's a busy guy.
Lordy.
Busy guy.
Yeah, even busy people can be not totally rude. So there were a couple of reasons. Number one was I had some fundamental disagreements with my boss about the direction we were going as a company. So there was one particular night, and our relationship was a little tense at that time because I had recently sent a very complainy email to the development team, all the product managers, and all the category managers because there was a new feature in our internal system that added an extra click to my workflow for something to do with inventory management, contributed absolutely nothing, increased page loading times, and was not on the list that we had provided the development team at the beginning of the year of our top 10 priorities that everyone down from the CEO to all the devs had committed to delivering to. They hadn't delivered one of those items, and instead they were working on this crap that was just making my life more difficult.
It's bureaucracy.
So I sent out this email. I go, who requested this feature? Who greenlit this? This is not what we asked for. I CC basically the whole company, everyone in senior management.
What was this company, by the way?
NCIX, yeah. I get back, uncc'd everyone else. I get back a 3-word response. It was me from the CEO. So things are a little tense between me and Mr. Steve Wu at this point. And so it's probably, I don't know, it's like a week later or something like that. And we end up having a conversation after hours because I was there finishing something up, and so was he. And he says, our number one priority as a company is to reduce our on-hand inventory. And I say, no, I fundamentally disagree with that. As a retailer, our number one priority is to sell more stuff, move more boxes out the door. Because if you sell more stuff, your on-hand inventory is not a problem. And so we'd had some conflicts over the years. Like there was this one time that I bought, do you remember Coolit Systems?
No.
Okay, so they still exist, but they were in the consumer space before they lost a patent disagreement with Asetek. They make all-in-one closed-looped coolers for CPUs. Okay, so Coolit had to exit that business because they lost this patent dispute, and basically they had to get rid of like a few thousand of these things all in one go. They had to get rid of it now because they couldn't sell them anymore. So I bought the entire thing for like half price, and I bled those things out over the course of almost 18 months. And so there was this tension because he was mad that it was in his warehouse for 18 months, but I thought it was fine because I was making anywhere from 25 to 75% margin on it, which from my perspective is just fine. So if you're making money, it's not a problem. If you're not making money, it's a problem. So anyway, we had this disagreement. Things got a little bit heated. He said something along the lines, and I'm paraphrasing, but if you can't march behind the banner of the directive that I'm laying out for this company, then maybe you shouldn't be on the product management team. Wow. Maybe you should just make YouTube videos. And I kind of went, oh, well, that's a good idea. I'm sure he meant for him, but
you were like, idea? So,
and it's not like I hadn't had my eye on the increasing AdSense. Like I'm a very numbers-driven person.
When you were thinking about?
So this was back in 6.5 years ago or so.
Okay.
So whatever year that
So
would be.
AdSense exists. People are making money
Oh
on
yeah,
YouTube.
well, sort of.
Yeah.
So I'm not making a ton of money at this point, but what I am seeing is the growth.
Yeah.
I'm really numbers driven, and I remember very distinctly, this was with not the CEO, but with another boss that I had. I remember being so excited because for the first time ever, we had done $1 of AdSense in a day.
Wow.
And he's like, wow, good for you. Go get a McDouble and then get back to work. And I was like, no, but don't you see? That's double what we did 6 months ago. Growth.
Yeah.
It's all about growth. And he was like, cool. Call me when it's $1 million, you know, like that kind of thing.
So you were making videos for them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Linus Tech Tips has been around over 10 years and I've only been independent for 6 and change.
I did not know that. Okay. So it started under that umbrella.
That's right.
You were searching for the independence, basically.
So what happened after that conversation was I started to crunch some numbers and I went, okay, I don't know the first thing about editing. I don't know anything about shooting. The only thing I know is tech and hosting. And also I have some management skills because that's the kind of role that I was in at the company. So, and I started to try to figure out, okay, can we make this work? And I figured that yes, we could, but what I really needed was the YouTube channel. So Linus Tech Tips at that time had just under 200,000 subscribers. And I figured I could start over, but that would be really, really difficult. Like even for someone like me, and I'm not saying I'm some kind of mega genius or anything, but I'm obviously an experienced YouTuber. I know how the space works. I can build a successful YouTube channel. I've done it multiple times now. But even for me, the prospect of starting over at zero at that point was incredibly frightening. So I had to work out a deal where I could take the channel with me. Now, I couldn't take it by force. There was no legal ground for me to stand on there. But what I could do was I could negotiate. So the deal I ended up striking, and now that NCIX doesn't exist as an entity, I guess I can talk about it because there's non-disclosure agreements and stuff like that, but they're gone. So the deal I ended up striking was I bought the Linus Tech Tips YouTube channel for $1. And, whoa, hold on. No, I sold my soul a little.
Okay.
In exchange, what I gave up was I signed a 2-year non-compete. So I could not do any paid work with an e-tail or retail organization that operated in North America other than NCIX. So I would have to work
for 2 years.
That's right. Exclusively with manufacturers. I tied into a very bargain basement rate to continue to host the videos for their channel, NCIX Tech Tips, for 2 years. I also committed to, shoot, what was the last thing? There was something else. Oh, I signed a, like a no poaching clause. So I couldn't hire any talent from NCIX. And I think that's pretty much it. It was mostly about the non-compete, because basically at that point I had decided I was leaving. I didn't agree with what we were doing, so I had to go. So I laid it out this way. I said, look, either I'm leaving and I'm going to Memory Express or Canada Computers or Newegg or something, or I'm leaving to work independently and I will sign a thing that says I won't help them at all.
And there's a lot of people don't know, but there's a lot of behind the scenes to a lot of channels. You know, you have like Philip DeFranco with Discovery, you have Grace Helbig with My Damn Channel. Yep. And there's so much that goes on behind the scenes, but it is really cool to hear that, yes, those 2 years were probably a long 2 years, but to be on the other side of that and to have built what you've built now is amazing, right? And I'm sure you like this much better than not having a job for a company that's out of business.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, my timing was, looking back at it, was outstanding.
Yeah.
I got out before being at NCIX was any kind of black mark.
Right. For the people who are in, because I'm surrounded by a lot of creative or entrepreneurial people, and they're faced with that fork in the road a lot, where they have that 9 to 5, right? They have that job that's, it pays the bills, right? It's comfy. But there's that thing, that side hustle, you know, that they know that they could probably do. But were you waiting for something, for a moment, for an argument to happen? Or was that just kind of a gut feeling? Were you doing things on the side that you had the confidence to make that move? Because I think a lot of people are waiting for a sign to say, okay, it's time to quit my job, pursue this.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't really waiting for anything. I mean, I worked my hands to the bone for that company. I loved that company. I worked for that company before they paid me, honestly. Like I was I'd get home from work or school or whatever, and I was on their forum helping customers decide what to buy. Like I was effectively a sales representative for NCIX before they ever hired me as a sales representative in their Langley store. So no, it wasn't something that was in my mind until I just saw a direction that we were moving that I just couldn't get behind.
And I think it's interesting that you had those managerial skills. You had processes in place, because that's something that I will probably forever be struggling with, but I'm getting better now. You'll
always struggle with it.
Process.
I'm still struggling with it.
Because I think a lot of the listeners too are creatives first, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we don't have a lot of history in an organization where there is process, and especially with creative work, how do you put process to that?
So my wife is actually a huge part of why we're able to be as organized as we are. She
sounds so epic.
Because I might not be necessarily a creative type in the traditional sense. I don't know. It's funny because
writing and breaking down ideas and coming up with ideas is very creative.
So for a long time, until I handed over all of my writing duties to the writing staff, more than anything else, I considered myself a writer, because that's actually what I spent like 60 to 70% of my time doing was writing. And then standing up in front of the camera, well, that's quick. So I haven't really considered myself a creative type in the traditional sense, I guess. But I also was not like a managerial businessy type. Like I was just a tech head. The only reason I was chosen to make videos, the only reason I managed to get promoted up the ranks was because I just was passionate about the technology, and that helped me to sell it. And it helped me to educate people about it. That was it. It all stems from that. So my wife's background is actually as a pharmacist, very detail-oriented. She makes a mistake, someone dies, literally. And she managed to end up in a managerial role in the pharmacy at Costco within like 6 months of graduating. She's incredibly driven. She's incredibly hardworking, very detail-oriented. And sometimes that's caused some friction because, she'll say, why are people doing this when they're not, checking a prescription, counseling a patient, sorting the baskets, like the kinds of things that she would have people do in the pharmacy. And I go, well, here's the thing. We need to have kind of a looser vibe here, because you can't do creative work when you're not having fun. And so we have to find a balance. And that's exactly what we've done, because if left to my own devices, I would play video games all day. I flunked out of university so hard it would make your head spin.
Really? How many years did you last?
I was in for about a year and a half.
Okay.
I think I was actually there for 2-ish, but like I only did about a year and a half of actual courses.
Okay.
It was a bad scene.
So get this. I was in college for 3.5 years doing electrical engineering, and then I dropped out with a year and a half left.
Really?
So I was close, but that creative call, Linus, it called me. So I became a YouTuber.
For me, it was my calculus mark that called me. 19%.
No way.
19% in Calc 100.
So you don't like integrals?
It's not that I don't like them. I think they're very nice expressions.
What's the
point? It's not even that. So it's really funny. Almost all of my stories involve my wife at some point or another, because I actually met her as like my tutor. So she would try.
So she's a genius.
She would try to help me with calculus. Well, okay, hold on a second. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, because there are certain. So she didn't do physics 12. I'm going off on a tangent here. She didn't do physics 12 in high school, but she needed an equivalent course for her pharmacy program, for her science program. So she effectively took physics 12 in university, which is like 100, and then 101 is like the actual first university level thing, or however it works out. And she brings back this homework, and she's like, okay, so there's like an inclined plane or something, and it's sliding down the thing or whatever.
And there's friction.
Here's the direction the forces are going. And I look at it and I go, yeah, the force is going this way, and that's why, whatever. And she goes, no, I don't get it. And I go, no, well, okay, look, this is the direction of the force. And she goes, no, I don't get it. Look, go away. I'm going to do the math problem. And so she does the math problem, gets the right answer. And I'm like, but you don't understand what you just solved. She's like, no. Wow. So I have this very sort of abstract mind, and she has this very analytical mind.
Yeah.
So anyway, she's trying to tutor me in calculus, and we're sitting there above the pool. There was this kind of like secret area where you could hide away above the pool.
How romantic.
No, not that romantic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Trying to set the scene in my head.
Anyway, I get it. Suddenly, I get it. I do the entire chapter worth of problems for the like midterm that I'm about to take, and I get them all right. And I'm like, holy crap, it's so easy. This is not difficult at all. And she's like, wow, you get it. And then I woke up the next day and it was gone. And I've never understood it again since then.
You're like, see ya, university.
I actually had a very similar experience in my life swimming once. Do you know how to swim?
I know how to swim.
Okay, but are you a good swimmer?
I'm not a good swimmer.
Okay, can you do butterfly?
Yes. I grew up in Texas.
You can swim fly.
Well, not well.
Okay.
You just asked me if I could.
So that's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
So I was a lifeguard when I was in high school.
Okay.
And as part of your lifeguard training, you have to do all of your instructional training so that you can teach little kids, because you don't get the cushy shift standing on the pool deck until you've done your time in the water with the snot-nosed kids, right? So so as part of your training, you have to at least fundamentally understand butterfly, even if you can't actually swim it well. And at one point in the unit, we were doing our practice lengths, and it clicked. And when butterfly clicks, it's actually beautiful. I was like, oh, this is the rhythm. This is what my mom was talking about. She was like a swim club kid. Like she looked at my pathetic efforts to swim, and she was like, oh man, the standards for NLS are so lax these days. I can't believe they let you kids rescue people. Unreal. So like it clicked one day, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. I swam 2 lengths of such gorgeous butterfly that the swim club kids in the lifeguarding classes were like, wow, we should get you for our fly squad. And I was like,
hold on, what is a fly squad?
Like a 4-person relay team.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, flight. That sounds sick.
Yeah, butterfly, fly.
Fly squad.
Yeah, sorry. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm good, but like, wow, cool, because like these guys have been swimming circles around me for the entire training program. Like I'm good at teaching, but I'm not good at swimming necessarily. Whereas they're great at swimming, but some of them struggled with the actual like working with 7-year-olds with, you know, disabilities or whatever. Like, right. But that was always really fun for me. So anyway, the next day I tried it again. Gone.
What is that? I mean,
it's just gone. Can't find the rhythm. I'm like flopping around in the water like someone who knows the stroke but can't find the rhythm.
So is that just the way you learn and retain things?
No idea.
Interesting.
Couldn't tell you.
Oh my, well, college was a very terrible experience for me, but it led
Really?
me to where I am now. And it sounds like,
What was so bad about it?
just I wanted to make videos, and I was worrying about I didn't care about the ones and zeros, and I was an electrical engineering comp sci major, but I didn't care about the little transistors. I didn't care about all of that stuff. I've been a band, played electric guitar my entire life. So
major.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
I wanted to make like pedals and amps.
You should have done what I did. I never declared one. Didn't make it that far. Sorry.
You never declared your major. Yeah. I mean, well, that's what I wanted to do, right? I was like, oh my God, if I want to make guitar equipment,
right,
electrical engineering, right? And then I got an internship at an electronics shop. And all of a sudden I was like soldering together circuit boards. I was like fixing piano keys. And I was, oh my gosh, I was like, this is not for me. This is not for me. So it was always in the field is where I really discovered, oh my gosh, I can't do this. So that's when I switched to comp sci. And then we were learning super base languages where I'm like, we were basically learning how programming languages worked. We weren't even in like Python or something interesting, C++ before Swift.
Right.
So
like
I was
looking
leaving
at like machine code basically.
Exactly. Okay. And so I was leaving class. Okay, well, I can't make an iPhone app. I can't make a website. I'm 3.5 years into college, and I can't do anything practical.
Right.
And that's where it really clicked. And I was like, you know what? I'm making videos, and so let's try this out. I dropped out with only 3,000 subscribers. and I worked for a production company until I made a viral video, and then I got a residency with Adobe, and the rest is history. But anyways.
It's funny you mentioned that, because back to, was I looking for an exit, and like, you know, was I looking for my side hustle or whatever? It's funny because we did, for our Christmas party this year, we gave everyone in the company a jacket, like an anniversary jacket kind of thing, because it was our 6-year anniversary. Anyway, everyone's sleeve has the number of subscribers the channel had on the day they first were hired. And I looked at mine and I was like, that can't be right, because it's like 203,000. And I was sitting there with my wife as we double checked the numbers. When we went indie, we had less than 200,000 subscribers. We were like, would we recommend that anyone do that at this size? No. I'd say wait till like 500,000, 1 million.
It's almost though when you know, right?
I guess so.
And
I wasn't that certain.
Well, and take me back to the beginning as well. Did you initially hire people right out the gate?
Yes.
Okay.
So I had 2 people that were working with me at NCIX, Luke and Edsel. And Luke
Is that Luke who still works here?
Yeah. And Edsel who still works here. And so Ed did all of the camera and editing, and Luke did all of the like pre-prep for like techie topics, like making sure that the video card actually overclocks before I go on camera and try to overclock it or whatever. And the way that I saw it, because I didn't have, especially on the editing and shooting side, I didn't have those skills. I really needed those bodies right out of the gate. And when I crunched the numbers, I went, well, if everything goes according to plan and we continue to grow, I will have enough to pay them, but not me. So that's fine. Then let's just hire them and go for it. Full gusto. And then outside of AdSense, that was where I had to get paid. So that was when we started doing things like pre-rolls on our videos that were baked right into the video, which at the time was not nearly as common as it is now, to say the least.
So you would basically, hey guys, what's up? This video is sponsored by, was it the same layout as the ads that you do now?
Kind of similar.
Okay. Because I think people with YouTube videos, they get scared because they say, oh my gosh, I can't do an ad. It's not authentic, right? But there's not, how do I say this? I feel like there's not as many ways to monetize YouTube as people think. You know, you have affiliate marketing. Great. You can put those Amazon links in the description, merch, but that won't compare to, if you're Logan Paul, you're making the money on merch.
Sure.
But in terms of working with brands and AdSense, I think that's really where the money is. Was that scary in the beginning? Did you say, oh no, this might risk authenticity? Or what was that like in the beginning?
So, I mean, for me, it was more about making sure that we were minimizing any potential for a conflict of interest. So at that time, especially like these days, I don't think anyone internally worries that my opinion of something is going to be affected by like someone's stupid sponsor spot at the beginning of the video. Like, quite frankly, there's no way that I would recommend, an EVGA video card over some other brand because EVGA does advertising with us. I actually just kind of don't care about it anymore. Like, there's other people internally that handle all that stuff. And
so there's systems in place right now.
And I just make sure that I'm comfortable with the talking points and we go for it. Like, everything is very structured now. But in those days, I really worried, like, what would be people's perception if we did...
in the beginning, it's different, right?
A sponsor spot for Cooler Master on an unboxing of a Thermaltake case. Like, ooh, how does that work? And it's funny to look back at it because the dollar values involved were so small compared to what we deal with now. But I was really worried about that. I was really worried about the audience perception, less that we were not authentic and more that we were just sellouts. I didn't want them to think like, oh, they're just doing this for the money. Because it wasn't. It was actually to eat and be able to do what we do, which of course we love. So really the approach that we've always taken that has worked great for me, I hesitate to give advice to anyone about this kind of thing because everyone's audience is so different. YouTube Premieres is a great example. Our audience hates it. There are audiences that absolutely love it. And so, you know, I'm not going to say that one size is going to fit all, but the approach that's worked for us is just being completely honest with our viewers. Hey, here's the things that are going on behind the scenes. Here's the server upgrades we're doing. Here's the editing workstations we're building. Here's the people we're hiring. And these things cost a lot of money. So here are the things that we're doing to continue to develop our business so that we can continue to bring you guys better and better content all the time. And as long as people actually believe the content's getting better, then I think we will continue to have their buy-in.
And having that open conversation of these brands are supporting this operation that you guys know and love. And I think reminding people of that is important.
We also don't buy into the concept of trying to hide your sponsors or your advertisers. So
yeah, no.
we've kind of
There was
made
a lot of that in the early days, though, right?
there was a lot of that going around on YouTube. Like I'm not of a whistleblowing nature necessarily, but I'm definitely aware of people even now who are not disclosing.
Still, they're not scared of the FTC.
Well, of course not. So why would the creator care? It's not on them.
I mean, we can get fined.
No.
Can we not?
No.
Oh, it's only the brands?
That's right.
Oh, okay.
So especially when they're working with brands that are ignorant of the rules or that are just willing to skirt around them, there's a ton of undisclosed stuff going on now.
I had no idea. Well, I do. Yeah, again, no names. But a lot of companies will hide it under, you know, fees. That, oh, we're paying your production company to make this.
For sure.
But then you post about it, but you don't have to do #ad, right?
Exactly.
And so it's still kind of the Wild West, which is crazy. But I think in the long game, it's always going to be better if you're on the up and up, and you very clearly.
So we keep things really cut and dried. Here's what you're paying for. Here's what you're going to get that. Anything else we do is because we love the product or thought the event was really cool or whatever else. So we can keep our editorial and our sponsored content completely separate that way. The other thing is that we've just turned our like shameless sponsor plugs into a meme in and of itself.
And then you
Speaking
can have
of sponsor
fun with
plugs,
it.
this video is brought to you by something completely unrelated. And that has really deflected, I think, a lot of the upset that other people deal with, where they're trying so hard to make it integral to the content or to blend it in that from my perspective, I'm just going, own it, own it, embrace it. You're sponsored. Why are you ashamed to be sponsored? You work hard. And in my case, I've got a team of like 25 people that rely on this money to come in. Like I can't pay people in goodwill. So
well, apparently you can pay them in NVIDIA graphics cards, though.
Okay. That contractor who came in and did our lighting grid, yes, that actually was a thing that happened.
But not your employees. That makes sense.
No, my staff has to buy gasoline and food and shelter.
Well, speaking of 25 people, and I'm sorry if it seems like I'm hounding on this, but I'm just hiring my first full-time person recently,
congrats.
which is like a big deal because I've always just had freelancers help.
Yeah.
And always done pretty much everything myself. But
you're a manager now.
Okay.
It's like a promotion.
I have questions.
Yeah,
on
sure.
this, okay. People, delegation, going back to process, right?
Yeah.
So the first hires that you did obviously were very necessary. You have to have people film, edit, set up.
Yes.
When you started hiring beyond that, was that when you were starting to think, okay, do I have to have actual interview questions? Or in terms of the scaling, when did like the process come into play? Did you know, like, did you have company culture at 3 employees? Or like, when did those certain steps that you hear people talk about all the time, have those ever come into play? Or do you try to create an environment that's like, hey, we have fun as long as we get stuff done, we're good? So
we've always had, I've always believed that the general should lead the charge into battle. And so what I've always tried to do is just demonstrate what my expectations are for how we get things done. And sometimes that's bit me in the butt because there's a trickle-down effect of my general disorganization on this place. But there's also, I believe, a trickle-down effect of that I believe in working hard. I believe in not cutting a corner. So unless you have to, unless there's a compelling reason to, we're data driven. So we're data driven and we work hard. We're not going to waste our time. We're not going to waste our resources, but we're also not afraid to do something above and beyond. And the other thing, the last thing, is that we're not afraid to change. So when we started, we were predominantly an unboxing channel. We basically don't do unboxings anymore unless it's just like a goofy live stream or something. Like we don't consider it core content whatsoever anymore.
So you said something interesting that
happens from time to time. I try really hard and it's like, yes, success.
Well, and unboxing stuff is very topical and it's not necessarily that evergreen content, right?
No.
And so people are going to watch that for 1 week, but then they're not going to watch it for weeks to come. One of my favorite things that you do was what do you call it? The something cop, like
Secret Shopper.
Secret Shopper.
Yeah.
That was a really great series recently when you were buying an Origin PC, a Main Gear, what were the other two?
iBuyPower, Alienware, and HP.
Yeah. And you went undercover and you saw how their customer service was and all that stuff. And it was really interesting and fun and compelling. How has your content evolved throughout the years? What made you decide, though, like, okay, we're not doing unboxings anymore? And how did you get to the point where you have a lot of cool themes going and it's fun, it's beyond unboxing stuff?
So I was on Ritalin as a kid, diagnosed by my child psychologist because my parents were divorced and things were complicated. So I'm diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Now, I don't know if it's actually followed me through to adulthood, but what I can tell you is I get bored of things extremely quickly. So the secret to my success is that I get bored. Mm-hmm. And I get bored before my audience gets a chance to get bored.
Which is good.
Which is exactly what has driven us. I got bored of doing unboxings. So there's been a lot of major decisions that we've made. So if you had asked me 5 years ago, 6 years ago, if I envisioned a time when we would no longer cover computer cases, I'd have said, are you kidding me? Computer cases get so many views. They're big, they're tangible, you can manipulate them on camera, they're tactile, you can like slide drawers in and out of them. Like they're great for video. They're great fodder for video. Whereas something like a CPU is tougher. How do you do B-roll of the 20th CPU? You know, it's hard. I just said you were crazy. When's the last time we did a computer case video? You probably wouldn't know. That's fine, I don't care. It's been a long time. And the reason for that is I got bored. The computer case industry has been in cost down versus innovation up mode for the last 5 years. And I don't find them interesting anymore. So we killed it. Mm-hmm. And so that's the kind of mentality that we've tried to take to our content. Just because something is performing well, if we're not finding it interesting, then let's just kill it. So we killed unboxings. We killed almost every core category that we had when the company was founded. Things like power supply videos, keyboards, mice, computer cases, motherboards. I remember telling our partners, hey, we're not doing motherboard reviews anymore. And they were like, what? What do you mean you're not doing motherboard reviews? I'm like, we're not going to do motherboard reviews anymore. Who cares? And they were like, well, what do you mean, who cares? I'm like,
we care.
Yeah, all the features are baked into the CPU now. Like literally the memory controller's on the CPU, the PCI Express controller's on the CPU. The motherboard is just a PCB that it plugs into. Yeah, you put an audio chip on there and network chip there. Good for you. Mm-hmm. Like they all overclock the same now. What do you want me to say about it? And they're like, well, I don't know. The color scheme's cool. I'm like, yeah, people can see that. They don't need a whole video for that. It's fine.
And so following your interest has paid off.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the other thing too is taking advantage of what we can do better than other people. And I don't mean because we're like geniuses or anything. I think I have a very smart team, to be very clear, but not because we're like smarter than the other guy, but just because of the way that we're set up. Mm-hmm. So Scrapyard Wars has been an incredibly popular series for us over the years. And the reason we ultimately decided to do it was because we can.
Can you explain to them what that is?
So Scrapyard Wars is kind of a reality show where two people, or sometimes three, or sometimes more actually, go head to head trying to build the best possible deal or get the best possible deal on a gaming PC. And it's by hook or by crook. You just get cash money at the beginning and there's usually some kind of twist. So the twist this time is you're working in partners. The twist this time is that you don't have a budget. You can spend however much you want, but you need the best performance per dollar. That's a tough target to hit because you have no idea what the other team is building the entire time until the big reveal at the end. And so it's the kind of idea that I'm sure hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of content creators have kicked around in their small office going, oh, we should do that. That would be so cool. But then we don't have enough camera people. We don't have the budget. We don't have enough on-camera hosts. And I went, no, let's do it. We can. This is an advantage. This is something that no one else can do because I've believed for a long time in going to work every day and grinding away at it. And so I've invested in full-time people and the facilities and the equipment for them. I'm like, well, I want something for it.
Where you have an idea and you can just go for it.
Exactly.
And that's so powerful. But it's scary for, I think, a lot of creators because you want control. You want control of everything. Oh my gosh, I can't have someone edit a video. What do you mean?
I've heard that so many times.
Yeah,
it's great.
like, what do you mean, Linus? So when you were kicking writing to a person in the beginning, which is your thing.
That's my thing.
Right? How would you sit down with them and see what they have written out, and then would you correct them on the spot, or would you let them have their time? They would maybe email you and you would send them back a Google Drive, or would you just like redo it?
So
what was the process?
We hired the bulk of our writing staff a little over 2 years ago, and I still review 98% of the scripts word for word. I sit down with them anywhere from 20 minutes to 2 hours, however long it takes, and we hammer it out. And either I will make unilateral changes if I completely disagree with something. I have rewritten scripts completely from scratch. Or, especially now that those guys have their bearings, they've been at this 2 years now. They're actually seasoned YouTubers. It's amazing how many seasoned YouTubers there are in this building. I tend to defer to them as well. I'll say, look, I don't agree with that, but if you feel strongly, let's do it and see how it goes. And if it goes well, then you get to say neener, neener, neener. And if it doesn't, then don't do it again. Yeah. And so, yeah, I still review everything pretty much. And I'm having a hard time foreseeing a future where I don't have to keep that creative finger on the pulse in that way. Truthfully, I don't actually watch the majority of our content, like the actual finished videos.
Wow.
So I review with the writer what the concept is, what the script is, pretty much word for word, and then any ideas that we have for like funny skits or anything kind of edgy, and then that's it.
So I think that's proof that what you're good at, what you love, you're always going to have a hand in it. But for the stuff that isn't that, delegate, 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 and do not be scared to do it.
And we have made so many mistakes. Every person here has made an entire person worth of boneheaded errors or lapses in judgment or whatever you want to call it.
But you ultimately probably wouldn't be here.
No.
You know, you got to let people do mistakes. And I think that's what's so scary.
Because that's the other advantage we have. We are not just one person. People go, oh, Linus, where do you get your ideas from? And I say, the 20 friggin' people that walk in this building every morning. We are a team.
Which a lot of that, when I learned that, I was like, what? What do you mean he has that many people? And for me, I was like, that is inspiring. That needs to be me one day. But it's so cool because I think I don't know if it's ego-based or what it is, but you just think that no one can do what you can do. And in the beginning, that's fine, but it gets in the way. And I think it's really hindering a lot of people's creativity. So I applaud you, sir.
Oh, well, thanks.
Yes, I have a few things on here that I want to touch. So
yeah, for sure.
What do you think about, we're seeing them on the YouTubes. They're gifting YouTubers with the Luma Forge jellyfish.
Oh, the Luma Forge jellyfish.
Yes, because I want to hear your perspective because you're the server guy, right? You're very good at, taking it from scratch, making people servers. But then here comes the solution that's mainly on the other side, right? For Apple machines.
Yep.
And we're seeing it in a lot of YouTubers, spaces. So I want to hear your thoughts. And I think, do you know the exact, how much they're like $20K or something?
No, I think they're more than that. I think they're somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 grand.
40 grand?
Yep.
Very expensive servers. Like I should have written down the details. Do you know 60 terabytes? 100 terabytes?
I think it's 80.
80 terabytes.
If I recall correctly.
Yes. So what do you... thoughts?
When I first heard about this, so for one thing, I know some of the people that I worked with setting up servers for them are using Jellyfish now, or using Jellyfish in addition to what I set up for them. And the thing that I think a lot of people don't necessarily realize is that one server is not inherently better or worse necessarily than another one. When you walked in, actually, we were shooting a video on a server that would be completely useless for storage. It was a super thin thing, could only take 4 drives, and it was designed as like a high-frequency financial trading machine. So it had like an overclocked CPU in it and almost nothing else. Super weird machine. So some servers are designed more for backup, and that was the ones that I was setting people up with. Or you could kind of adapt it a little bit. You can add like a high-speed solid-state cache that you could edit off of, but it would be small. Whereas other servers are designed more for...
to work off of.
Yes, real-time work off of them. So the machine that we use for our editing, so we've got anywhere from 5 to 7 editors working with red footage off of one box at the same time. All our footage is on that one machine. Of course, replicated to another one in near real time. Like if it fails, it's fine. But it's totally different from anything that I built for anyone because they didn't have teams the size of ours, and it was kind of unnecessary and it was quite expensive. If I had known that I had a budget of $40,000, I mean, I haven't actually used the Jellyfish, so I don't want to speak out of turn or whatever. But I could have, I'm pretty sure, fairly easily built something that absolutely cleans its clock in terms of performance. I mean, the one that we use is at least an order of magnitude faster than that thing.
And how much did it end up being price-wise?
So that thing, see, here's the thing though. Not everyone wants the kind of solution we have. So the box...
And it's something that you built, right? It's not something you can go and buy online for $10K.
Well, you can.
Okay.
So the box itself is from a company called Supermicro. It's a bare bones server. So you just add RAM, CPUs, and storage pretty much, and an operating system. So you could probably get that up and running for a few grand, maybe like 3 to 5. Don't quote me on that because it's kind of an older server now at this point. I don't know if they even sell that one anymore. And then you basically just populate it with your own drives. And see, I'm willing to do stuff like buy consumer grade SSDs off eBay. So mine is actually full of Intel 750 series 1.2 terabyte drives, install them myself, run Windows storage spaces, configure my network shares. Like I'm willing to do that stuff, but not everybody is. Some people just want to focus on making the video. And so for those people, my solution is not necessarily the right one. So I actually have, I haven't talked about this before, but I have a video call planned called What Have You Done? With 2 question marks. That's what I intend to have as the title. I intend to take some of my friends who are using Jellyfish, and basically I've set a goal for myself of completely, utterly destroying the Jellyfish in terms of utility and performance for less money. And I'm pretty sure I can do it.
When I saw those videos popping up, I immediately thought of you because, you know, you're very knowledgeable with servers and stuff. But when I saw that price tag, I was like, oh, I bet Linus could kind of...
They basically bought the
this
server
thing.
equivalent of a Mac.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And for some people, that's cool. I mean, you're using an iPhone right now. You're looking at your iPhone 10,
Peach. It's
whatever that is.
It's the Peach
10R. I'm sorry.
Come
right.
On,
it's got a
Linus.
color. I pay. You know, I got to be honest with you.
What is your phone?
I daily drive a Note 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like the Note. iMessage.
The Note 9.
AirDrop.
What do you mean iMessage?
iMessage, Linus.
Right, but what does it do?
Okay. I don't think, maybe it's a thing over here because I don't use WeChat or whatever the other things are. But when someone makes a group green and it's not the blue iMessage and you can't share all the pictures, you can't share that minute video in the group chat. Or I have a friend who has a Pixel. I love the Pixel. But when I try to send him like a 2-minute video, nope. So I have to upload it to Google Drive, send him a link. So very basic stuff with media, with AirDrop, you know. And I've made a lot of videos recently about, you know, going to the dark side of PCs. And I always say, in my experience, it has been much easier to switch to PCs than if I were ever to switch to an Android. I don't see a time that I could switch. Now, I would probably say that.
There's so many alternatives.
And I know you made a video recently about Android, why it's better. But
Well, we also did one on iPhones, why they're better.
okay.
We actually did 2 videos, both designed to pretty much piss off the other side.
Yes.
Yes.
So tell me why you don't care about iMessage or AirDrop. What was the original thing? I forgot what we were talking about, but I'm interested of why.
Because why would I? I use WhatsApp, WeChat, SMS,
That's it,
Hangouts.
yeah.
I use all kinds of things. Who
Right.
cares? It's just a
So-
notification. You just type a thing
So
in the
when
doodad.
you're around with your family and you take pictures of your beautiful kids and people want the media, you can share that easily without AirDrop, without
So I can show you something really
iMessage?
cool. So I use Plex on my phone, and I have a
Okay,
Plex
don't-
server
I
running
don't
at
know
my
what that
house.
is.
So if I take a picture,
Okay, well, not everyone has their own
I can fire
server
up.
at
Hold on
their
a second.
house.
So I can fire up Plex, and this is neat. So this is every photo that I've taken, along with every photo my wife has taken, and they're just already here. It happens automatically.
Okay.
There is no AirDrop. What do you mean open AirDrop? What am I, a caveman?
Or iCloud, sharing iCloud.
What, pay for iCloud? Are you kidding me? This is my server.
Okay,
So my pictures are on my server.
Right,
and I can
right.
share them with
So
whoever I want.
it goes back to, I think, people wanting the solutions right at the palm of their hand without having to download other things,
See,
right?
look at my baby. She fell asleep
Oh.
at the top of the stairs. Isn't she precious?
So precious.
She crawled out of bed, and then she just passed
Oh
out
my
in the hallway.
gosh.
Anyway,
So cute. Okay, well, touche.
AirDrop.
AirDrop, iMessage, pretty Coral phones that now in the S10 you can have. So we'll see, guys.
I have to confess that I just am not sure if I care that much about phones anymore. Again, attention span.
It's getting,
I didn't watch the S10 keynote.
I didn't either.
I didn't go.
And I
didn't
actually
watch
haven't
it.
watched any videos of anyone. And
Nope.
that's something that I'm feeling too. The last phone cycle, I was doing everything. I was at the Apple event, I was at the Samsung event. It was fun, great. The Pixel was the last phone I did. And when OnePlus emailed me, he was like, hey, I would love to send you out a review unit. I literally emailed them back very politely, but was like, I can't do another phone video. Like, thank you so much. Like, that fingerprint sensor, great, but I just can't do another phone video. And I think, I wonder if the consumers are getting tired of it,
I think so.
you know?
I mean, if you look at the channels that have been predominantly driven, YouTube is so cool because unlike closed garden websites where we have to rely on, it's funny, we have to rely on services like Alexa, and I don't mean Amazon Alexa, I mean the old Alexa, like the website stats tracking Alexa.
Oh.
Yeah, different thing. Where we had to rely on services like that to get some idea of how these sites ranked compared to each other with respect to their size and their traffic. With YouTube, everything is so transparent. So you can look at broad industry trends like, okay, here's all the channels that are focused on mobile. What's their trajectory right now? And what I thought was really interesting was a couple of the biggest Indian YouTube channels that are heavily focused on mobile have been in a steady decline for about the last, I think it's about 6 months. And you could look at India-specific trends that might be affecting that, like the fact that basically 250 million people went online in the span of just a few years, and then they got phones. All of a sudden, their phone was like this highly functional thing that was like the center of their day. Like they could do everything on their phone, and they were like learning about phones and excited about phones. And then there's a couple things that happened here. One, budget phones got good enough that you didn't need to upgrade them every cycle, so maybe you didn't need to keep up on them so much. And the people who just aren't that interested in upgrading their phones and are just interested in the utility of it
Aren't going to spend $1,000 every single year.
maybe they're just not upgrading, so they're not looking into it as frequently. So
Right.
there was this massive uptick in Indian YouTube channels that were focused on mobile, and lots of them are declining right now. And so maybe there's a certain amount of phone fatigue that's happening everywhere else as well.
Right.
Of course, you'd have to spend a lot of time and you'd have to interview people. There'd be a lot of, there's entire firms that are dedicated to this kind of market analysis, but it's something that's worth having a look at. And the title for my iPhone XS video was Even Apple's Tired of It or something like that. Did you watch that keynote? They were so bored. They didn't care. They were like, all right, well, I guess we need to sell a few million of these, so we should probably, fire up the Steve Jobs Memorial Theater and some PowerPoint or whatever, the Apple slides or whatever they call it.
Right.
They didn't care. They were bored.
Yeah.
And you can tell that's why it's so important for us to have a culture of having fun. Because as soon as we stop having fun making videos, people won't have fun watching them. I was bored watching that keynote because they were bored making it.
Well, and you said you're data-driven as well. So do you personally get into YouTube analytics, and are you every day comparing one thing to the other? Like, what is the first thing that you notice? Watch time, or how many videos you're posting and how many views? Or what are things that you're looking at that means success, that means you have to pivot, or that means, oh, okay, this trend, that's out?
So overall channel viewership is really the big focus for us, driving more overall channel viewership, even at the expense of maybe doing stuff that's more viral in the moment. Click-through ratio is obviously huge. You can access that really amazing chart in the new Creator Studio. Most of it's terrible. This chart's really amazing, where you can see how a video's trajectory is out of the gate with the real-time stats compared to normal. And you can also see the click-through ratio on the thumbnail title, see if that's working. That is so valuable. But the big one we're looking for is making sure that overall as a company, we are growing. I had mentioned we're slumping right now. So our December was our biggest month ever, and then our January was bigger yet again, and our February is back to, like, I think August, September last year levels in terms of overall viewership. And so something that I'm wondering is if we, maybe we overdid the clickable thumbnails a little bit. Maybe people are a little fatigued on that style, or maybe we haven't been...
What does that mean? Clickable thumbnails? Just the more clickbait?
I don't consider it clickbait,
okay,
if it's honest.
Right.
So if it is what actually happened...
Oh my gosh face.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So click enticing, but not necessarily... It's not a bait and switch.
Right.
It's what it actually is.
Right.
It's not just like putting boobs in a thumbnail just to like get desperate dudes to click on it. Like, it's different. So anyway, another idea, maybe we're not focusing enough on evergreen content, because that's something that's really important to us. We see every video we publish as 100 views a day in perpetuity. And if it isn't, well, then that probably wasn't a very good video, which is one of the reasons that we've stopped covering keynotes and announcements. We haven't commented on the Galaxy S10. We'll just wait and we'll do our review.
Right.
Because that kind of stuff has a short shelf life.
Right.
And
is that where you try to bring in your other channel, Tech Linked, and try to do that more topical stuff? Is that why you saw the need for that channel?
That's been such a success for us.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and it's great because I think you can ride off of those topical waves, but at the same time, your audience already has so much good stuff to go back to, whether it's on that channel or your other channels.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Because to me, it's all about competing where you're strong. And we are not strong in being there in person at the exact moment it happens and listing out the specs that the manufacturer just told us. Why are we not strong in that? Well, because I have a family and because I have a big team of people, and it's hard for me to just be globetrotting all the time. It's actually I'm getting older. Like, I'm really noticing, like, jet lag wasn't a thing for me. And it's like, it hits me really hard sometimes now. Yeah. I can't keep doing that forever. Like, my kids are 6 now. My oldest is going to be 7. And for the last 6.5 years, I've been running this fledgling company, and I haven't seen him as much as I should. I can't keep doing it. Yeah. So that's not my strength. That's the strength of people who are younger and more energetic and more passionate about whatever new phone is coming out than I am. So, okay, let's engage where we're strong, which is more analytical type content, more entertaining content, content where you've got multiple hosts that are playing off of each other or bantering or whatever else, taking advantage of our production team versus trying to compete where anyone with a camera and a shotgun mic is on the same playing field.
Right. Which is something that people try and fail a lot, is bring in new hosts, right? And so that's something that is so cool that it works for you, because I think, your audience has grown to love these other personalities. But I think that's so hard for people.
It takes so much time and it's so much work.
Yeah. So how does that start? You're just, hey, Luke, hey, blah, blah, come on the channel, say what's up, maybe do some more, maybe personal vibe. I know it's always based in tech, but how long did it take for the audience to learn of a new personality? And then, how long did it take to get them in front of a video by themselves? So
the general rule, we don't allow people on camera until their probation's up. And even then, it's in a very limited role. You shouldn't expect to speak on camera. until probably about a year in. That gives the audience time to warm up.
Right.
And then you shouldn't expect to actually host a video until you are 2 years in. Now, there have been exceptions.
So it's used as an incentive too. That's kind of like, oh, you have to be around and know what's up before you're on camera.
Not necessarily. It depends on the people's
person.
ambition.
Yeah,
so we have people on staff who are plainly gunning straight for on camera. That's what they want. That's what they breathe every day. It's like, how do I get on camera? But then we have people who have been far more reluctant to appear on camera. Like Luke didn't have a super strong passion for being on camera. It just happened naturally because he started co-hosting the weekly podcast with me. And then, people wanted to hear from him since he was doing a lot of the product testing. And we did a very slow handoff. So it started with us co-hosting the podcast. Then I would do some of the talkie at the beginning of the video. I'd hand over to him to discuss benchmark results, and then he'd hand back to me to do the conclusion. Then he started hosting them all on his own. And there have been other people where we've started them out on secondary or tertiary channels before they actually make an appearance on Linus Tech Tips.
So it's baby steps.
Always
right?
baby steps.
Baby steps.
The last thing you want is a bad first impression. You want to have built that because the thing I think a lot of people lose track of, even though we're very numbers driven, we understand the audience is actual freaking people. Like every one of those 100,000 views is a person with their eyeballs pointed at a screen somewhere engaging in this with this content. And so there's a relationship there. You can't just, some people have pulled it off, but in general, you can't just take the person that they've built this relationship with for 10 years in some cases and just sub them out. It's like if someone took my mother and just swapped her out for some other lady, how am I going to... She might be a super nice lady. That's not my mom.
That's a great example. Yeah. Because some days I'm like, oh my gosh, someone just take over this video. But I think that's what makes YouTube so special is you develop that relationship with your audience, and it's you, right?
Exactly.
We're going to take a hard pivot here,
Sure.
one of the last few questions we have, because we had some YouTube drama recently within the community.
Oh, my favorite topic.
Yes, your favorite topic. And we're not necessarily going to talk as much about the stuff that you commented on about the copyright stuff. But I thought you said something really great in the video, and I'm just going to say it again before I ask you this question. You said whenever drama comes up, you need to ask yourself to, one, think critically with any accusations that come up, and then who are the stakeholders and what can they gain or lose? What is the actual solution to the problem, and who has the power to enact that solution? Where can I find that info? Is it worth your time? And is the drama happening? Is it being addressed with the two, first sources where it came from? And recently there was something that happened in the community where Vox Media,
yes,
which is the parent company of The Verge. The Verge is a tech website.
Yep.
I personally know a lot of people at The Verge that I love, but I am also a passionate YouTube creator and love the creator community. And
whose side are you on, Sarah?
Right? And recently Bitwit had a video of them reacting to a poorly made PC video.
I think poorly made is charitable.
Yeah, that The Verge made. Like it was pretty bad, right? And it was pretty much, I'm assuming, the case of, hey, we have to film this video. You come over here. You know about PCs, right? A little bit. And that's, you want to ask, oh my gosh, was there no internal vetting before this was uploaded? But whatever.
Here's what I want to know. Hold that thought. Why didn't they just clone my video? Honestly speaking, why didn't they just rip it off shot for shot?
Right.
I wouldn't have even been mad, because it would have been a much better video.
Right.
I have done so many build guide videos that they could have just taken some slightly more modern hardware, because we don't really do them anymore, but they are in depth, they are step by step. They could have built a perfectly good gaming PC.
I think that's where the frustration was, because there is a ton of educational content out there to build a PC. So when you go on camera and you're giving advice that is wrong, there's frustration, right? So the video that Bitwit posted was Kyle reacting to it, his alter ego, which is pretty funny. And then he got a strike, which is bad. It's not just Verge claiming their content, but it's saying, hey, you went above and beyond, something wrong, we're going to give you a strike. Yeah. When you get 3 strikes or 4 strikes, you can have your channel terminated.
It's baseball rules.
Yeah, that's why it was such a big deal and why the community reacted the way they did. So with that being said, that context laid out, with that whole situation, what were your initial thoughts, and where do you think we are now with it, that the Verge Fox has retracted, the strike?
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's a few things. I want to start out by saying that I agree with the Verge's editor-in-chief, who I don't remember his name at this point. Sure, thanks. I agree that the way that the community is behaving at this point is not okay.
It's blown up.
The fact that
crazy,
no one should ever be receiving a death threat for anything that happens to or about a gaming computer. Get your head on straight. This is not war. This is not disease. This is not a serious issue. And yeah, people take gaming very seriously, but at the end of the day, it's not oxygen. It's not food. It's not clean water. It's not shelter. We don't need it. So let's not, you never talk about a human life in the context of, what it's worth with respect to like gaming or computers or YouTube. Not okay. Anyone who's engaging in any of that kind of nonsense is way out of line. With that said, I think The Verge has really done a spectacular job of continuing to dig a hole for themselves when there really just didn't have to be one. I've had this conversation with other big companies, and I go, I know one likes you because you're afraid to be human. There's one large microprocessor company. I'm not going to name who it is, but I had a conversation with a PR rep, and I basically went, everyone roots against you because you guys default to just being jerks. You're like the abusive spouse was actually the analogy I used, and it's not a very PC analogy, I suppose, but I was like, you do things wrong, and then actually you're not even like the abusive spouse because they will apologize at least. You just do things wrong, and then you brush it away. What you need to do is you need to come out, acknowledge that you did something wrong, apologize for it, lay out the plan for how you're going to prevent it from happening again, and then you need to do your best to prevent it from happening again. You need to actually behave like a respectable human being, and then people will like you. And until you can figure that out, don't be surprised when everyone is rooting against you. And so what Vox did was, instead of just issuing a public apology, like not the kind of half-baked, we're sorry he was mad, that they ultimately did issue. You just need to issue a public apology, and not just for the strike, like for that video. The fact that they stood behind that for so long, like it was embarrassing. They embarrassed themselves. And so they set the stage for this to blow up, because the community wouldn't have been so mad about this if they had just come out and said, you know what, we really screwed up that video. That was awful. It was not up to our editorial standards. We need a mulligan here. I actually reached out on Twitter and I offered to come in and help them do it again. Didn't even get a reply, but they were certainly replying to other crap on Twitter. So I don't know. Maybe they saw it, maybe they didn't, but it wouldn't have been hard to contact someone who knows what they're doing to come in and help them. And whether for a fee or whether for free, I would have done it for nothing. But I think they put themselves in a position where they didn't just be human. And I think Kyle had every right to be mad. And now we just need to move on. But they also, by just saying, guys, we just need to move on, are still doing it, which is why people are still mad.
Yes, those were good words on that topic. I think everyone is just very...
I try to make good words.
You make great words, Linus. And I just think it's because there's a lot of passionate people on both sides of this, right?
Yep.
And so I think that's why it's still going on. But I think you're definitely right. In a lot of the situations, in the back of my mind, I'm kind of just like, oh man, if like the owning up to it and the apologizing, I think that would have meant a lot to the people involved.
Of course.
You know?
And the do-over, because remember, it's not enough to acknowledge you did something wrong and say sorry. You have to actually create an action plan and then actually do it.
Right. Yeah. Good stuff. We got into a lot of good things today. Thank you so much for being on, Linus.
Yeah, no, my pleasure.
And are there any things that you want to put out into the world? Anything else?
Subscribe to PewDiePie?
Subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to Linus Tech Tips. Tech Quickie too. We didn't talk about that, but you have a lot of great channels. Thank you so much. Make sure, guys, to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. There is a YouTube channel where you can see daily inspo clips, 3 to 5 minute clips at youtube.com/thatcreativelife. Thank you so much for being on.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks.
Woo.